off top. In 1493, Christopher Columbus wrote in his journal, off the coast of what would become the Dominican Republic, that he saw mermaids, and they aren't nearly as beautiful as the paintings would make them seem. Play the music!
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
All right, welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. We are joined by one of my favorite guests, Ryan Russillo, the host of a very good podcast, The Ryan Russillo Show.
Rank the guests. Rank your favorites.
Sure.
I don't know how I stack up.
You think I'm scared to hurt some feelings? I love to keep it real. All right, let's see.
I love competition.
Where do we start? All right, so my number one guess is obviously Bill Barnwell. It's my favorite.
Yeah, good. Little limited.
He's a football guy, but he's great at the football stuff. Barnwell's number one. Number two.
Yeah, kind of one lane. Got it, though.
Number two. Barnwell, probably. Again, Bill Barnwell.
We just have a definitive.
Oh, number three is my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ashley coming in 3 behind 2 Barnwells.
We're putting Pablo last, right? That's
I'm
the
okay with
definitive
that one.
last.
Pablo's not on the list.
Yeah, okay.
I have Pablo on only as like a favor. I don't like Ryan doesn't need promotion for his podcast.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help Pablo's show make something happen, so I have him on as a favor. He's a terrible guest.
Wait a minute. I think Pablo is his interest level in something where I'm like, will I be interested in this? And sometimes it's no, but there's a lot of yeses in there where I'm like, I did not think I would be interested in this.
Well,
we're not.
If you have an example, do you have an example?
Game,
I shouldn't put you on the spot like that. Maybe you could cover. The reason why Pablo is a terrible guest is because Pablo is a good host. And what happens when Pablo comes on this show is he reverts back to when we used to do a show together, and he starts hosting my damn show.
Yeah.
And asking me questions, kind of like Ryan just did.
Yeah, but I think I can get away with it, at least in the beginning. Thanasis
asked me a question, too. Later, I guess we'll have it on later this thing. He flipped my podcast at the end to ask me questions, too. But I don't know. So do you have a Pablo Torre episode or something that you thought was interesting, or you were just trying to be nice?
No, the thing that came out today as of this taping, the mortgage battle between Ishbia and Gilbert. That stuff was fascinating.
Stuff.
That was good stuff. That's not going to lead SportsCenter.
Yeah.
It's not going to lead First Take. Hey, blame Pie, Gilbert Ishbia, mortgage rates. Like, you're not getting that.
It's good journalism. They're definitely not going to do it. So you weren't all in when he just sat around with his friends and played video games and talked about drugs, which is every other episode.
I didn't catch that one.
All right. So we got off track a little bit, but I did want to start with a genuine congratulations. Like coming off of the Iowa LSU game. Y'all got one. Way to go. Good for you. We got some soul searching to do, and it happened. Congratulations to Iowa and Caitlin Clark and those who are rooting for him.
Including Domonique Foxworth, who was texting me saying he was rooting for Caitlin Clark.
You're going to out me? I'm in mid-joke. I'm in mid-race joke.
It wasn't landing.
Which Russillo has come to expect from me, and it landed. I guarantee it landed. Maybe it didn't land in this room. But people are listening.
No, it landed.
Okay.
It landed. I love that you and I can go there with this, or at least we think we can.
Yeah, we're good.
Look, my people have faced adversity in this sport for a long time.
Oh, in this sport. Okay. In this sport, that's fair. You're right.
And I would say on the men's side, you start watching the NBA, I just don't see a lot of people that look like me. I don't know every Eastern European boundary on the map.
You got to claim them? You claim
No.
Okay, I was going to say, you got to be Americans.
Latvia?
Yeah, you can't claim
Davis
that.
Bertans?
Yeah.
I can't be like, hey, that reminds me of me. I connect with him. I mean, put both of his shoulders together, and I'm not even quite sure where we're at with that. So, yeah, the American white basketball player, we're keeping track. I don't know if there's going to be a movement. I'm not even sure that movement's allowed. It wouldn't happen in January if we were going to do some sort of show on it. But, yeah, it feels – but the weird thing for me is, like, I was excited for the moment, but I myself didn't care about the outcome, which is weird.
I mean, honestly, I thought, if anything, you would have been rooting for LSU because you're like a LSU – or I guess you're an LSU football fan, right?
Yeah, it's LSU football, but – those are my adopted people
Right.
or I was adopted by them. I mean, look, if people give me about it and say you're so lame, you went to Vermont and then you liked LSU.
Who
Like,
gives a
hey,
fuck?
we didn't have a football team and I fell in love with the place and I love the people, I love the state. And so I'm usually going to just want them to be happy. And that's kind
I
of
grew up-
where I align.
I grew up rooting for UNC because my dad grew up in Charlotte and he did not go to UNC. He went to the military and he was like, this is who we root for because, well, it's what Duke represented and what UNC represented in an area was something different. Whatever your connection is to the point, it doesn't matter.
I
You
grew
root
up
whatever
rooting
you
for
want.
UNC also because of Vince
colors?
Carter teams.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
like Vince Carter, Jerry Stackhouse. As a kid, I was like, these guys rule.
I like Foxworth's dad's excuse
Yeah,
better.
so much-
Like, imagine telling his dad, "Oh, did you even go there?" And you're like, "No, I went to Vietnam."
I'm not that old.
I know.
Yeah, no, he.
I was trying to. I didn't know if I.
Yeah,
could
we didn't
use the
have it.
Gulf.
There were no iconic. I mean, I guess Desert Storm. He didn't go to Desert Storm, but that was popping back then. But anyway,
That was quick.
yeah.
I was thinking about Desert Storm the other day. I'm reading this great book on the Middle East, and it was like,
You're such a,
I remember
you're such a
Shock
bro,
Jock.
dude.
Starting sentence.
That's being a bro is reading about Middle East policy over the last 7 presidents.
No, reading is not being a bro, but you are a very well-read man, which I respect. But I feel like maybe this is where the Roman Empire thing kept popping up. You remember that was like a thing, a meme going on where people were like,
Yeah.
So that just reminded me of that. I was like, so I'll just sit around thinking about Desert Storm the other day. That's a real duty thing to do.
But it was just such a different time. I mean, it's 30 years ago. And when that kicked off, I remember Shock Jock, like radio guys in the morning, setting an over-under on how many days it was going to take. And it was like 7.5. And guys are like under. And then you would just hear these urban legend stories of like a guy rolling up on some battalion. And then they were like, we surrender. And can you haul our Jeep out of this thing? And you just keep hearing it over and over again. And everybody likes Storm and Norman.
Mhm.
And the consciousness of this stuff has completely changed, where imagine everybody wearing like whatever the latest fatigue combination would be. Like guys were rocking Desert Storm camo hats and walking around. Guys on the football team, like that was a cool thing. Everybody liked Schwarzkopf, like approval rating through the roof. That doesn't happen anymore, especially once you started realizing like, you know what, when the outcome of the war for them is that they just can't lose. They don't have to win. Be like, this is actually way more complicated. Now I'm starting to go down a path that I didn't want to go down.
I'm down for this.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a different episode, but I'm down for war talk with Russillo. But I would have thought, I was trying to think of why that's different, because and maybe it's about the distance from the time period, because we do hear about like World War I and World War II as a very galvanizing time in American culture. Obviously the Civil War, opposite. But Vietnam was polarizing in that, because I was going to say that it's just like the proliferation of like different accesses to different opinions in media allow us to like feel differently, because like in the 90s, we thought what they told us because that's all we had access to. But I guess I didn't come to a firm belief, but just thinking about how that's changed, because you're right. There is no one thing that happens these days that, I mean, we can go back to
this is something you guys could do an episode on with Pablo.
Oh man, you don't want to talk nonsense. All right, well, we can get to football. Shout out to I didn't get to talk to my man Cooper, because whenever we talk about white athletes, we talk about my personal hero, Cooper
Oh,
DeJean.
I think we were Cooper Flag.
Oh, he can hoop. He is. Oh yeah, we're talking to y'all. Got Cooper Flag. He gonna be here soon. Y'all better get excited.
We are aware. We just don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Don't get too ahead of ourselves. He's going to Duke too. He's really leaning in. Duke,
I know, right?
Do working class whites like Duke?
I've hated Duke from the beginning.
Yeah, I assume so. So Charlie let the cat out the bag. I was rooting for Iowa last night. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a little ashamed to say
Why
it.
were you rooting for Iowa?
Now, I'm really ashamed to say the reason why I was rooting for Iowa.
This is the best.
Angel Reese, who grew up blocks away from where I grew up, is like the exact same city in Baltimore County, Randallstown, Maryland. I would love for her to be great, and I'm rooting for her, and she is great. But as simple as like aesthetics of the game, I like watching Caitlin Clark play. And the idea of getting another Caitlin Clark game was exciting to me. The idea of watching Angel Reese, like that was what it was compared. It's like Flau'jae, I like watching Flau'jae offensively play. Like Angel Reese passes the ball well. Every other time, it just feels like Kim Mulkey has not evolved with the way the game works, because it's not that Angel Reese doesn't have sophisticated skills. She doesn't have sophisticated post moves. Alas, Kim's like passing it into Angel with her back to the basket. Then I have to watch Angel throw up an ugly shot, and it upsets me. I'm just like, give her the ball and let her pass it. So that's what it came down to. Is I found it wasn't premeditated. I'm watching a game, my wife and my oldest daughter, and they're pulling for LSU, and Caitlin hit a long shot, and I was like, yeah. And they were like, you root for Caitlin? I guess I root for Caitlin. That's how it happened.
Yeah, but see, that's a really good reason because you enjoy her. You have no attachment to either program, so you just want to enjoy her version of basketball one more time. I did an interesting open on my pod to start the week after the game because I thought it was really cool that women's basketball owned the night and that it was an event. It was an appointment for a lot of people. And I admitted I watched the first half and I was like, I'm good. Yeah. There's just limitations with that game that sometimes I even see in the men's college game where I was like, I want to see Devin Booker in New Orleans.
All right. So the differences in the game are true. But one thing that Charlie, I've said this to Charlie a few times, is like intense stakes.
Yeah.
That'll get me. And so that's what it was for me. Because you're right. Like the differences of the game and also like understanding that it is a different game. And the only thing about the games that's tough, I think, is sometimes the disparity. And this happens in college football sometimes too, where the disparity between the best players on the floor and some of the other players on the floor, sometimes that's like a shock. Because you see Caitlin do something and then she'll pass it to someone else. And then it's like, oh, y'all not in the same league. But overall, yeah, I like watching it. Juju was fun, even though she lost. Paige Becker's my favorite player in basketball, which really upset people I was watching the game with. But anyway.
Well, let's talk some NBA.
All right,
we
Charlie.
are, I don't know, a week and a half away from the play-in tournament, and the West has become really interesting because I don't know if it's 8 of the top 11 teams in the league, 8 of the top 10. There are a lot of good teams in the West. Right now, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people think Denver, because of the championship pedigree, because they have the best player in the world in Jokic, and depending on Murray's injury, they're still a title favorite. But outside of Denver, who do you guys trust the most in the West as we sort of work our way through it?
I'd probably say Minnesota with some version of a healthy Towns.
Is that just a belief in Anthony Edwards?
It has a lot to do with Anthony Edwards because I'm not the biggest Towns guy. And I think there are times we've seen in the past where Gobert matchup specific can work against him because he doesn't really do anything to you when he has the basketball. But they all play defense, and they all play defense really hard. Like McDaniels on the ball is ridiculous. Alexander Walker's decided it becomes contagious. He comes in, plays defense. Monty Morris was out there against Denver the other night chasing guys around. And when it's like late or a big possession, because it's just hard to ask Ant to score 30 and carry you offensively and then play lockdown defense the entire time. You just don't see it a ton from the best players in the league. But when he dials it up, it's ridiculous. You know, Nas is like a good help defender. So there's just a lot there, even though I would say throughout the year, the one thing that scares me about them is some of the offensive execution. And if teams want to load up defensively on Ant, it's just kind of hard to do it all by yourself in today's game because I think the defenses are just really good. Like they're people can glorify the from like a couple hard fouls in the 80s and 90s, but the technical stuff that they do with defenses now is just really, really good. So if it's like only one guy that you're kind of scared of, and even though, like I said, like Cat's not exactly my favorite guy, just having his 3-point shot making as spacing off of some of the Ant stuff is really good. So, OKC, as much as I love them and the depth, and I'll make this quick, their rebounding stuff's gotten a little bit better post All-Star, but I just don't know how Chet survives 3 rounds of ducking a front line that I think at times we've seen him have a lot of problems with, even though I love him and who he's been as a rookie. And this Clippers thing, went from look out, like this might be the team to beat Denver for 2 months to they're playing defense that's ranked among the teams that are tanking and losing on purpose. And the Clippers are like right down there with them. And there's probably going to be some health thing. And then I would say, Phoenix, there's a San Antonio game with them in Phoenix in the rematch when they played back to back, where after that game, I was like, I know they were great in the first half against New Orleans and got that win against another hot team. So, yeah, it'd be Denver because of Jokic one, and then Minnesota would be number 2 that I trust. But it's exciting because I don't really know.
So you don't have to apologize for going long because we had you on because of your basketball expertise. But I do also, I was surprised because, well, first of all, the playoffs is slightly different because of the, series and then the, more sophisticated level of coaching. You brought up, the more sophisticated defensive strategies. And I think that's what scares me off of OKC is like the youth and the coaching, the upgraded level of game planning in a playoff series that you see in basketball that you don't necessarily see game to game in the regular season. And you think about youth and experience and those sorts of things. But I would say that your point about, is it fair for me to still, so I was assuming you go one way, and I was going to come in with my big take about how important defense is in the playoffs, and that would lead me to the Timberwolves. But then I get scared because of the history of Gobert in the playoffs. Is there any reason to believe that they figured out, and I'll even grant you a healthy Karl-Anthony Towns, is there any reason to believe that they figured out how to play with Gobert in the playoffs and not get played off the floor?
Well, when the Clippers beat the Jazz the year, they were asking Gobert to do something ridiculous. They were asking him to cover the rim, and then they were asking him to close out to a small lineup in the corner. So it looked bad. Then there's other times where I would just say, like, a Steph is a different level of a challenge in the switch, pulling him away. Like, nobody's going to do well with that. I think, prime Chris Paul, like, that was something else. Like, I've had other people argue with me, like, look at points per possession, you know what you're talking about. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like there were some big possessions there late in some of those playoff games where it was a problem. And the other problem was that he wasn't making you pay for going small because he's actually really bad with the basketball in his hands. He just is. Like, he's going to get a few points here and there because he gets so many rebounds and he's around the rim, but he's still somebody like on a cut where you trail the ball handler after the screen, like, you still throw it to him to keep him engaged, but I think that's why, Donovan Mitchell and some of the other guys in the Jazz are like, I'm just sick of dunking it down to him. And the problem is with Utah, he was kind of their second star, so we expected more. And I think he's accepted kind of where he is in the pecking order of the scores with them. But it becomes more about the matchup part of it, because when I've watched it during the regular season, the Timberwolves have owned the Clippers. And if you look at what Denver's trying to do, and this most recent example isn't great because Murray's not playing, and it's really hard for Denver to not have Murray because other than Murray, I think Reggie Jackson's probably the only guy, other than Jokic, obviously, of like, who else do you have that can create off the dribble and get their own stuff, which you're going to need in the playoffs when the possessions just get stuck. And Denver doesn't really have a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys are complimentary. They're kind of waiting to be set up. Porter Jr.'s like that. Gordon's like that. Pope is kind of like that. And, Christian Brown, who they play at point guard sometimes because they're thin. You've just seen in these non-Murray games where it became a real problem. But one of the best things that Denver does is they run Aaron Gordon up and down to the baseline in the dunker spot. So if you leave him to go double Jokic, it's the easiest thing in the world for Jokic to throw to. Boston was awful with this play, really, for the entire game against Denver at Denver in the recent loss, where if you take Aaron Gordon and you try to stretch the floor with him against Gobert, because that's what they'll do, is they'll put Gobert on Gordon so that Gobert can then help off of Gordon because they're not worried about Gordon's three-point shooting. And then Nas was the primary on Jokic. So it messes everything up because then if if you're ignoring Gordon, then your spacing is messed up. So I like them in some of the matchup stuff that I've done, and I just don't know that Chet and Jalen Williams too, the big from Arkansas, I just don't know if that's enough to get through with all the size. And that's why I'm looking at them going matchup wise. There's just a little bit more that I'm excited about.
That Aaron Gordon sort of duck-in alley-oop or duck-in layup is one of my favorite things with Jokic because he just makes it look so simple. He's one of those guys on TV where he's going to make the right decision every single play.
That was really fun, talking through all of that and visualizing the way that these matchups work out. And I think we don't give matchups enough credence when talking about basketball because we've gotten accustomed, and it's been different recently, but we've grown accustomed, at least I have, and basketball is like the best team wins. Who has the best player? The best team. They're going to get it done, but I do think that we don't take into account, like the point you made about Utah is a point that about Gobert and Utah is a point that I haven't heard made before. And it makes sense. It's like I guess it wasn't a Utah point as much as a Gobert point. It's like it's about the decisions. We don't think about basketball as a game plan sport nearly as much as we do football. And the decisions and the situations and the matchups matter a great deal. But we've gotten accustomed to like, hey, they got Steph and KD, they're good. And it hasn't worked out that way in the past few years where it's like we put the best players because we assume the same thing to Clippers, and I guess you could say injuries. But anyway, I'm rambling. I did want to bring up another question for you, and I know I expected Charlie to bring up OKC because I know that's your team, right? You think if we take Denver out of it, OKC is the team.
Everyone can handle, pass, shoot, fun team.
And one of the things, they're probably the best defense, I would say, on the West next to a healthy
Minnesota's ahead of them.
Yeah, next to a healthy Minnesota. So that checks that box. They got SGA, who's a ball handler, a wing type guy who can make those plays. That checks that box. And the other box that I think it checks in, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I like to look for in playoff teams that I think can make a run is like I don't know what to call it. I call it roster flexibility, and it's not necessarily depth as much as is their ability to play in different ways, which kind of negates the matchup issues that you might have because you're comfortable playing a few different ways. And I guess my question for you is that something that you see in the OKC Thunder, or is it just that they have a bunch of unique players? So I've imagined that because they have Chet and because they have SGA and Jalen Williams and Lou Dort, like they're unique-ish players that I imagine that it means that they can play in a number of different ways.
No, you're not imagining anything because this is by design. Presti's one of the best GMs in the league. He's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, LeBron told me that.
And yeah.
We predicted it 20 years ago.
Look, this whole concept, as it was explained to me by somebody who's better at it than I am, you know, you're talking about different teams. I mean, that's always the fun stuff before the draft. Like, hey, what do you think this guy's going to do? What do you think I'm going to do? Like, they took this kid, Ousmane Dieng, who I loved. And it's because he was 6'9", and like in the second half of the season, when he was playing in the Australian League, he was like 6'9" and running the point. And like you could see this light go off in his head where all the clips in games from his first half of the season, he looked just completely lost. And then he like figured out like, oh, wait, if the defense comes up here, then I can pull it away and get a better angle and then get it to all these different guys. And then it's like, oh, the Thunder took him. Why did the Thunder take him? Because they envisioned the ceiling for him, the best version of him is somebody who can have the ball in his hands and make good decisions, but also drive and then develop a shot. This is what they've wanted to do, and you're not imagining anything because whether it's Williams initiating everything, who is a star, like that guy is going to be a star. The jump from last year as a rookie to this year is significant. He's big, he's physical, he's athletic in that Kawhi way where it's not every time up and down the court, but there's just those moments where you're like, he just did what? And he's not afraid of anybody, man. He goes right at dudes. We know about SGA. And, you know, Giddey, when SGA's been out recently, like it's the best stretch/reminder of like who Giddey can be, who I thought was incredible in that Knicks game that came down to the last shot. And then they do have all these other pieces. Casey Wallace comes in. He's terrific. Isaiah Joe is a legitimate shot maker who's actually shown a little bit more to his game. Kenrich Williams comes in and plays the 5 at times if they didn't have the other Jalen Williams, again, who we've mentioned from Arkansas, who I think comes in and plays his off right now. It is about it's not about young, because when you fail when you're young, you fail because you're young. And when you fail because you're old, you fail because you're old. Nobody ever goes, hey, he failed because he's middle-aged. We've had young teams be successful in the past and win the whole thing. I think like 8 of the 10 are 1980s or prior. And then you have the Golden State Warriors, who in 15 at least showed you that it can happen. So it's not impossible. I can't get past the nights where I feel like Chet has got his handed to him because he's asked to just be around the rim against bigger frontline teams. So
you sang the praises of the front office down there, but I can't let you get out of here without pointing out the fact that OKC didn't make any moves at the trade deadline to improve their roster.
Yeah, they did the Micic trade to bring in Hayward's expiring and then have even more flexibility. And, you know, I think for years, I mean, granted, they're certainly more educated. What's that?
My jokes just aren't landing today. I was just making a joke.
Oh, my God.
I was listening to you and Bill.
Well, because it's been a serious thing. Yeah. It's a real question. That's a joke.
No.
Who's doing your material?
No. You got annoyed with Bill, so I was trying to annoy you. You seemed annoyed with Bill when he repeated that again, so I was just trying to annoy you. That's all.
Oh, well, I think with Bill, it's like, hey, I think we did this 3 weeks in a row, so I can't. I see in this audience, I was giving you, boy, that is I'm not afraid of the layers. Yeah. That is down there with the ore.
It's a deep cut, minute 96 of a Sunday night podcast.
No, the fact of the matter is, Charlie and I, we do the show for each other. I knew that would make Charlie smile, and it got a smile out of Charlie. Maybe the other, because I know that no one else is deep in the podcast game like we are.
One more thing in the West. This is sort of a pivot.
I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Celtics, but before we get out of the West, what you got, Charlie?
So
you want to talk about the Suns?
Yeah.
I hate the Suns.
Expert opinion. Why aren't the Suns better?
Well, for the longest time, I made a lot of excuses about them because it was like, all right, I don't care about what any of their rankings are because this team's just not together enough. Like you're watching and you're like, oh, what is this? They're the 11th game with all three guys. Okay, now they've played like 27. So like, what do you do? What stats matter there? So this stretch, which by the way is the toughest closing stretch that I've seen in the NBA in a long time. Like look at their game from Denver on and the remaining schedule. I think at one point the opponent's combined winning percentage was like 65% to close the season, and the next toughest schedule was like 55% winning percentage. So it was a massive, massive gap. And I mentioned that San Antonio game because I was like, if you guys aren't into this now, like why am I going to pretend that this switch is going to go on? What I think I've learned about this sport, even though your point is right, Domonique, on, hey, like, at the end of the year, like, oh, cool, that guy was a top 3 player and they won the title. Like, maybe we're making this too complicated because that's the norm. At least it feels like 80-90% of the titles won in a decade are one of the, 1 to 5 best players in the league, maybe even higher. But when I look at them collectively, it's like, so you guys that have never done anything before, we're just going to assume that you guys are going to do it. Like one of my least favorite basketball teams of all time is the 2018 Celtics. And they talked like they had already had 3 rings in their back pockets. And it was like, man, we still don't think anybody can beat us in 7. It's like, well, maybe it'll be 5 in the second round then. It's like, wait. And it's like, no, I need to have seen something from you before to believe in you. Same thing as the Nets. Like, okay, yeah, there were some Nets runs there with all those guys. We're in the regular season. Like, is this actually going to work? Is this going to work? So I kind of put it in that category. And I'd say watching them collectively, even though last night's first half against New Orleans was incredible. And I love Devin Booker. I love him. Okay? Yeah. I wish more guys were like Devin Booker. I wish more guys like wanted to go at everybody. And it was just about basketball. It wasn't necessarily like a personality defect or anything. I just don't think they get it. They just have so many moments. And there was some crazy number that I saw in one of their broadcasts where they were like 4th in defensive ranking in the half court. And it kind of reminded me of those Harden Houston teams, which again, the 18 team was awesome, but it was like, oh, but when we're in the half court, this is our defensive rating. And it's like, wow, that's an awesome defensive rating in the half court. What about the other numbers that drag you down into the bottom third? And I just see a lot of plays from Phoenix where I'm like, how could you guys who have played this long, like keep allowing some of these stupid mistakes to happen, closing out on the wrong guy in a 1 versus 2 or in transition, not finding the cross match or just not looking like a team now in April. Like I'm supposed to pick that team against all these other teams that have shown some continuity throughout 5 months now. It's just a hard sell. And I feel like that San Antonio game is like haunting me because after that one, I'm like, I don't like, why am I going to just assume they figure it out? Because there may be a couple guys in this team that I love.
Yeah. I don't watch as many games as you, but I watched that San Antonio game also. And I had
the rematch, right?
Yeah. I had
when they lost with no Wemby.
With no Wemby was what really killed me. And it was like a weird experience where it's like they do amazing things. And then you look up and they're losing or they're tied. It's like, they're still really good. And to your point about, they have to show you something. And you spoke to Devin Booker, and I felt like it was last season's playoffs and probably a bit in the playoffs before that where I felt like it was all the things that you said. We saw Devin Booker seem like come of age, the way that he was playing on the defensive end last year. And I was like, this is the guy. And I was excited and I believed in them. And then we see this team and it's like.
It was also the Nuggets series when him and Durant
That's
were
what
like.
It was, yeah.
It was like
they were a 2-man show.
It was like 70 points a game for the
I think
two
it was the
games
defensive stuff more than anything for me from Devin Booker. And like he was hitting big shots, but it was just on the defensive end of the court where we were like, all right, this is what it looks like for the best player on a championship team. And I know that Durant is great and everything, but it was clear to me last year that Devin Booker was like, all right, this is the guy, but we just haven't seen it. I don't know. There's no major point there other than disappointment that we're not going to get that because you're right. We haven't seen it, and it's not going to come out of nowhere.
I don't think Beal is as good as advertised. Also,
Oh gosh,
he
it's
puts up
Charlie's
numbers.
hobby horse. Sorry,
No, he puts up numbers. He's an extremely talented guy when he gets to kind of that mid range. But he had a play last night against the Pelicans where they're up big, but the Pelicans did make a late charge at it there, and he ended up with it in the corner, and there was about 2.5, 3 seconds left in the shot clock. Like, he's got to take the shot. There was enough space. It was going to be contested because somebody was flying out to him in the corner to close out. But you have to take that shot. Yeah. And he threw it out to Nurkic, who was 30 feet away. He throws him a grenade. And by the time Nurkic catches it, like, he's got no chance. And it's Nurkic who has to pull up. And those are the plays, not to say Beal's the only one that does it, but those are the plays you're like, all right, you want to argue they were up big and it didn't matter or whatever. But, New Orleans did come back in that game, and you're just like, why would you have not taken that shot? And maybe I watch the game differently. Maybe I watch too much, where it's like, hey, man, it's just a stupid decision guys make them all the time. Your favorite players lose guys on baseline cuts, even though you get mad at other guys for doing it. It's all fair. But sometimes I'll look at something like that and go, I'm supposed to trust you in a huge spot. And you threw it to Nurkic, who was 30 feet away with an expiring shot clock.
That's always just been like in Washington, that's sort of the Bradley Beal experience, though, where it's like a player who's aesthetic because his jump shot looks so nice.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, that you just think he's sort of a better player than he is. I was surprised this year because I thought he was always a number 2 or number 3 option, and this would be the perfect role for him. And it just hasn't worked that way. Yeah. And part of that's injury, of course.
All right, appreciate you so much. All right, I want to get you out here with this. Last, we'll go to the East and talk about the Celtics. So, are there issues in the clutch a real thing? Is that going to kill them in the playoffs?
It depends on what numbers you want to look at, right? Because I remember around Christmas, I think it was because I was in a hotel in New Zealand and I had some time to kill. So I was like, all right, let's dig in. Let's dig into all this stuff. Let's find.
Hold on. Can I take a 20? So, why were you in New Zealand?
I've always wanted to go.
Okay, so you were just on a vacation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I actually went to go see the New Zealand Breakers.
Oh, nice. Ooh. That sounds awesome. And so you decided
in Auckland.
You were in New Zealand, and you had all the New Zealand things to do, and you decided, let me dig into some of these numbers.
Yeah, because I'm always on the move on these trips, Okay. So I know some people like vacations where they sit at the pool and they just drink the whole time. And I've never been. I'm an explorer. Yeah. I'm fascinated by explorers. I come from a family of explorers, and I like not colonists, just guys with canoes.
That was a good joke. You did a good job. I liked it.
Yeah. So I'll have some downtime, like I get out the whole adventure. I had this epiphany on the New Zealand travel pod where I was like, do I actually like hiking, or do I just like buying the boots and the bag and then grabbing some orange slices and a water and then being like, all right, cool, I'm going to do this? Because there was a hike that I had in New Zealand. I got back, was like, did I have fun? Was that worth it? Do I like this or do I like, because I had the same thing with the boat. It was like, do you like owning a boat or do you actually like boating? And it was great.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll get you back to you in a second. But I think like it makes me a little uncomfortable because it reminds me a little bit of me where it's like unfairly overly introspective. Like you're just sitting there thinking about, am I actually happy? Is this really fun?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's horrifying.
And I'm the same way on vacation. It pisses off my wife and sometimes my kids. We just got back from spring break and like, all right, we've been at the pool for 2 hours. Let's go somewhere. Let's do something. Let's go on a hike. Let's go to a museum. Let's go see something. Like, I don't know. They just want to sit, and my wife's drinking, but the kids aren't. But they just want to sit by the pool. My son doesn't. We get out and we get busy. But anyway, back to you in New Zealand, how you ended up with all the New Zealand things to do, be sitting in your hotel room breaking down Celtics numbers.
I was looking at drives. I was looking at clutch drives. I was looking at isolations. Did they get a little too isolation heavy? What's the shot distance on shot attempts as far as like contest, not contest? And I went through it all, and I was like, there's not really something that matches the eye test of the frustration of, say, that first Atlanta loss when they lost back-to-back games to them, where you were like, are you guys doing off-season training drills, or do you know that the score of this game counts and you're allowed to still pass? Did you think you ran out of passes in this game, like challenges? Because you're still allowed. There's no limit on passes. You guys can keep passing, and it turned into the Tatum-Jalen isolation trade-off thing. And the part where you can get as frustrated as you want is there was a couple incredible makes during that time of frustration because these guys are so good. So if you dig into the clutch stuff for them, if you look at their offensive numbers over the season, it's 6th. If you look at the defense, I think it's 7th. The net ratings like in the top 6 or 7. If you want to go clutch offensive rating after the All-Star break, they're like 14th, but their net rating is shockingly low. It's 21st, but we're talking about 8 games. So 8 games where it's not even an 8 full games. It's the 5-minute close with the score being within 5 points. So there's just not enough there that goes, oh, see, I know. I would tell you that I would agree with anyone who doesn't trust some of the stuff that we've seen from them at the end, but we're comparing some of the stuff we've seen from them against a team where every other category is off the charts. We know they're really good, all right? They're a really, really good basketball team, but they have a little tendency that still scares me this season where I'm like, is your go-to going to be something where it's dribble, triple threat, jab, step back, and then if Tatum misses, Jaylen Brown just goes, well, now it's my turn, because that's not really playing basketball, and I thought that was significant when you watched how they closed against Denver in both of those losses.
All right. Deep analysis. So if you are not already a listener or a subscriber to the Ryan Russillo Show, as you can see, he will give you all in the weeds basketball stuff and some fun stuff too, as you've learned here today if you didn't already know that. And in the spirit of all the deep analysis, one last question: Jordan or LeBron? Yes, my joke landed. All right, appreciate you, Ryan. I hope we do this again sometime. I'll come on your show anytime. This is really fun. It's actually more fun when we don't talk about sports and we just around. But one day in the future, we'll just do an episode where we around. Maybe this summer when there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, maybe let me think what I think you'd be good on, and I'll hit you up maybe later this year.
All right, sounds good. Can't wait. All right, appreciate you, Ryan. All right, we're lucky enough to have a special guest. It's Thanasis Antetokounmpo. He's the host of the Thanasis podcast. Oh, yeah, and he's a forward for the Milwaukee Bucks. We starting it with a quiz.
You get the full Domonique experience immediately.
All right, we start the show with a quiz. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
I think that you might be comfortable with some of these topics.
No.
Because I saw on your podcast you did something similar.
Oh, my God.
All right, here we go. First question. True or false? All right, I'm giving you a few questions. True or false? Barnacles have penises twice the size of their body. True or false?
Twice as false.
You're right. It's
Thank
false.
you.
They're 8 times the size of their bodies.
Okay.
All
That's
right,
crazy.
Second one. Koala bears.
Koala bears. I think I might know this one.
They have real fingerprints.
True.
Man, it's killing.
True.
It's 2 for 2 right now.
Follow-up koala fact.
You got a second qualifier?
Yeah.
All right,
Go.
Here we go.
Female koalas have 3 vaginas.
What?
True or false?
That's true. I know it. I know it to be so.
There's no way. That's
marsupials do.
false. There's no way.
It's true. It's true.
Oh,
It's true.
my God.
It's a marsupial thing. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Hippos are the deadliest animals in the world.
Gotta be. I'm scared of them, bro. Gotta be true.
False.
False, eh?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes are?
Yeah, they kill 700,000.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, a bunch of people every
That's
year.
interesting.
All right, last
Research.
question, and then we'll get on to some other topics. But all I really want to do is talk about crazy animal facts. All right, wombats have cube-shaped poop. So it's like their poop is shaped like a cube.
No way. That hurts.
True.
What?
True.
No. We gotta fact check that.
All right,
Please,
you can
everybody
Google it after
comment.
all of this. But we start most of our podcasts
Cubes.
He showed him a picture of it. We start most of our podcasts with weird facts. So I thought that we would do this here because I am a veteran podcaster. I'm teaching. You just got to start all your shows like this. I also know that you can get a lot more listeners if you have some beef. So we want to challenge you to some podcast beef. We're going to fight with your podcast.
Yes, sir. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Now we got to show love to each other. But yeah,
I appreciate it.
but I love it.
So how difficult has it been for you to to adapt to the podcast life? It's kind of hard. Like, it's harder to play in the NBA, right?
It's harder. It's harder. But I think you just got to do stuff you love, and I love the podcast. And the reason I love it is because I'm learning.
Yeah.
I had and I'm learning so many things and off camera, not just the stuff people my listeners hear about, but like off camera. Like I was like did the interview with Jake Paul, did the interview with Jordan Love, learned a lot from like Jay Will, and I had a crazy live podcast with Stephen A. and Jan, and that was like I learned so much of what he means, and then again I learned culture about the U.S. I get to learn.
What's the best episode or the episode that's gotten the most feedback so far?
I mean, obviously, everybody loved the Jake Paul ones, the Jordan Love.
Yeah.
I think just to see them in a different setting and different light to how
Jordan
people
Love,
see them.
I know you didn't grow up around with football in your life, but I was talking to Charlie before the show, and I was like, he could maybe be an all-pro NFL player. Like,
Nah, I don't. I do like. No,
I'm
no.
not joking.
No,
Like,
no.
you're 6'7" and coordinated and strong. I ain't playing. Like, if you had grown up, like, obviously you're a great basketball player. If you're growing up playing football.
So if I was born in the States, I'll probably play football. But I don't want to minimize what these guys are doing, bro. These guys is elite. Like the
crazy
hits,
too.
the
We all are
throw,
crazy.
the catch, the footwork. I see like one of my favorite guys that we actually coached him at the celebrity game, DK Mega, bro.
Yeah.
That guy's a beast. And then we played against Megatron. I won't say Megatron.
Yeah.
But we played against him, and I
Johnson,
watched both of them. I was like, bro, these guys are different. But and at the same time, I'm like, I think
They're
you
both
work your
smaller
way.
than you, by the way.
No, but you work your way up to that.
Yeah,
That's
they're,
how you work.
they're great. I appreciate the humility. I played against Megatron. It was not fun, and I do not want to play against someone who is 2 inches taller than Megatron and also just as athletic. But anyway, you can be humble if you want to, but I'm not going to let you be too humble because I got some videos for you.
Go.
All right, let me see the first. Can you give us some analysis on what's happening right here? There we go. All right, here we go.
Oh, no.
Talk us through it. What went down right here?
No. That's a No.
Yeah, with the Shammgod? You not? Oh gosh.
So I'll tell you what it is. So first of all, it's just a move. Like, okay, I hit that would do the Shammgod and stuff like that. But like the build up to it is because of like, how online. I mean, obviously it's just a weird year for me. I haven't got a lot of playing time, and I like, but at the same time, like I'm professional.
Yeah.
I do with a smile on my face. I do with grace. I don't, and I always like I'm on the point. I work out like I was gonna play 30 minutes. So leading to this, I think somebody was going on. It was just a whole thing. So you know how they do the low lights and stuff like that, and they'd be like. So I was like, okay, if I get a chance today, I'm just gonna play. Normally what would have happened was I would come in, I'd play the right way, pass the ball, do all these things. But somebody said something sleek. So I'm like, oh no, we ain't gonna do this now. So somebody said something sleek when he was playing, and then I told Jay before the game, I'm like, look what's gonna happen. And I told him exactly what I was gonna do. He can testify to that. I told him exactly what I was gonna do, and he just happened to. And that's my guy too. Number 21, like that's like he's a good player too. That's my guy too.
So we're taping this on Tuesday, April 2nd. You're playing the Wizards tonight.
Oh yeah.
This is your chance. Can we guarantee him a Shammgod part two?
Because you know what happens? Because then when you do highlights like that, people just assume like, okay, you come in and you play. But then that was just I love it that people loved it and they're entertained. But at the same time, I gotta play the right way.
Yeah.
You just gotta put it on tape one time. Let them know that you got it.
I'm telling you, it's crazy because the social stuff really affect how people see you. It's not even a joke. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, him. And then they see you up close, be like, oh, sure, he's actually bigger than what I thought. He's actually strong. Like, you know what I mean? So it does. It was fun. It was fun. It was great. I loved. I like that. I get to do it.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty cool. Yeah, you said you have to.
That little bit old school.
You had to play the right way. Yeah, no, it was a good shot to the old school. I remember that old Providence Shammgod hit us with that move. But you said you have to play the right way, and I saw Jeff Teague mention that you're kind of like an assistant coach because you know all.
He said that.
He said you know everything.
Everywhere, everyone needs to be on the floor. Every situation.
So I imagine it pains you to go out there and showcase your highlights a little bit. But we also saw that Pat Bev said you're the best teammate that he ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So what's the key to being a good teammate? I got to learn so I can be a better teammate to Charlie.
The key is always you got to keep people accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one. I'm not saying you got to be harsh. You don't have to be harsh. I'm not saying you got to be rude. But you definitely got to keep people accountable. And you have to do it with no agenda. So, in the past, I've talked to guys, I've mentored guys who play in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you as an athlete, you can understand how hard that is.
Yeah.
You know, how hard that is when you got a guy in front of you and you got to, you got to give him all your pointers. And you got to see what you got to do with no agenda. No feeling like, I don't want to play. I want to be playing in front of him. That's the one part of me.
Yeah.
I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
I live and die for this. But at the same time, I'm a winner. That's what winners do. They don't step back and say, you know what, I want to win my way. No, I just want to win.
Yeah.
So there's two things that pop out to me for that. It's like being a mentor. And I'm a younger brother, and I read an article a few years ago that talked about how professional sports are disproportionately made up of younger siblings. And it's because the older siblings are there. You talk about being a mentor. Obviously, there's something to with helping Giannis along his way to become the player that he is. And so clearly you know what you're doing when it comes to that.
Yeah, it was so crazy to me. It's like if I could write a movie and I wrote this as a story, people would be like, "What?" Us being the same household and us being able to play even one game. Forget about winning a championship.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come to me and they go like, "Oh yes, this that," and people just forget. Even with this now, all the whole social media stuff like that, I laugh and it's entertaining. But this is my 11th year, bro.
11th year?
Yeah, because people don't watch it. It's my 11th year. So somebody come and discredit you in your 11th year. You're like, what are you talking about, bro? And now be able to go home and not only play one game, like I said, be able to play in the NBA and all of us win a championship. People in the league don't even have a championship. And I go home and we talk about our runs. Coaches be like, "Oh man, my run with the Lakers when we won." And we talk about my run with the Bucks when we won. It's special, and it's one of those making mama proud moments that we live on.
So brotherly rivalry.
Yeah.
You're older than Giannis.
Yeah.
Last time you beat him in one-on-one.
Last time I beat him one-on-one. Well, this has to be a long time ago. So we used to play one-on-one a lot when we were younger.
Yeah.
But then my other siblings grew and started playing basketball. So now we always play 2-on-2.
Okay.
So he would pick. So he would pick the youngest one, and I would pick the younger than Jan. So we played 2-on-2. So that's 2-on-2.
When's the last time you guys did that?
COVID, and obviously I don't want to give no tricks, no game plans to do it in the offseason what we do, but during COVID we play for fun.
Who got the best of it? Those battles pretty intense?
It starts as fun in the beginning, and then he ends up being a little bit more competitive, and then dies down again. Yeah. But once we were like, okay, we're professional athletes, we ain't go. It's a good bump though. It's good.
Do you ever get so heated with them? We got another clip for you.
Yeah, go.
That it escalates to this level.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Nah. I don't know what that was.
Yum.
It's unfortunate. Is it? It's unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. And I get the why. But the thing, so Blake is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. I don't care what nobody. I've heard people was like, "Oh, Blake, he's incredible, bro. This guy,
but
he's so funny."
If you had to.
Say again?
Nothing.
We're talking about Blake? No. But the thing is, I don't think people, sometimes we're nice and I get the smile and everything. And I feel like people kind of brush that off and they go with it. But, it's just unfortunate, bro. It's part of sports, though. Yeah. I definitely not.
Yeah. When in your 2-on-2 matchups, when's the last time did y'all come to blows?
No,
never.
I never do that. My brothers are my brothers. This is I'll raise them, kid. They can do that. But at the same time, I used to have posters of this guy in my, it just hit the moment, and I think something was said, and I was like, we ain't gonna do this now. I think there's a point with everybody, right? And this is what sports is, that you realize okay, this is not what's supposed to be happening, but at the same time, people talk in general. We're a brotherhood, right? It's a close circle, and people perceive anybody any way they want to. But I think People have never tried to. Yeah, because they understand. Okay, the game is one part, but don't let it spill into anything different. You know.
The game, and you obviously are an example of this. You and Giannis both. The NBA has become so international.
Yeah.
And we have this debate that I don't know as much of a debate anymore about who would win if there was a world team versus U.S. team of NBA players. Who wins that?
It's tough to guys are still in the league. Like, it's tough. Not now. If you ask me in 10 years, 5 years from now,
yeah. I don't know. Well,
But
you being nicer to America than I think I would be, because I think the world team is a little bit stacked.
Luka, Giannis, Jokic,
Embiid.
Yeah. Well, Embiid
SGA
might be on Team USA.
Can we keep SGA? We keep
No,
SGA.
no.
we
Canada,
keep-
Canada.
We
No way.
keeping them. North America, we keeping SGA.
We took Embiid.
We claim SGA, and we claim all of North America. We claim all of it. There we go. We get SGA. We get Jaime Jaquez. He's Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's what we got.
Great.
Put them out there.
no, but you can't keep Embiid. I know you gotta.
Yeah, you got. We can't keep.
You gotta give us Embiid though.
Yeah.
I know he's gonna play for Team USA Olympics.
Yeah, but we can't keep
That was
Embiid, unfortunately.
that was interesting too. Like, I didn't know
Yeah.
that he was gonna play with Team USA, but
Yeah.
that's interesting because he's gonna give. But at the same time, like
That's interesting. What does interesting mean?
they don't have enough.
Oh,
Whoa,
okay.
Like,
I can see.
you know
I
what I
don't.
mean?
I don't want to get you in trouble, but it
No,
sounds
you're
like
not gonna get in
yeah.
trouble.
When you said it's
a normal-
interested, it's like you don't really like that move.
No, I'm not saying I really like it necessarily. It's
Okay.
not
Yeah.
he's not my brother. I don't have no take on it. But what I'm saying is it's interesting because I'm like, oh, they don't have enough. And then again,
So Giannis want to play for Team USA. He is your brother. You got
you
work?
would tell Giannis, guys, you literally want Giannis to play for Team USA?
Yes.
Come on, dog.
Yes.
You're playing in the Olympics this summer, right?
Hopefully, we'll see Pre-Olympics.
Yeah.
Pre-Olympics, and then we'll have a tough group. But hopefully we do good. We do
Yeah.
well. So
All right, so I know Charlie already asked you about the game tonight, and you're
Yeah.
not going to go out there and promise us no Shammgod, but
if it comes to it, I'll do it now.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
Hey. Now,
We-
I don't know if it comes to it, and if
All
it's
right.
the flow of the game.
Okay.
I'm saying this. You're not saying this. Jordan Poole's on you in a switch. It's the fourth quarter. You got.
You know what's so crazy? If we say this and he hears it, he probably might try. He might try to do it. He might try to do it.
Nah, he not. Yeah, he gonna be tired because they've been. We live in DC and we've been going to games, and it's been a rough season for us, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they not good, man.
It's been a
Sad.
tough tanking year.
Guys, it's a process.
Yeah.
God, you expect them to go out there and win 50 games? It's a process. They building. I think they do have a good front office. I've met a couple of guys. They do have good talent, so they're building their way up.
It just if they wanted to be bad, they could have been bad last year and got us a chance at Wemby.
How
That'd have been nice.
crazy is it when you see Wemby in person?
Yeah.
Oh my God, so. I talk about this in my podcast too. So I saw Wemby. He played with my brother Costas. So my brother Costas went overseas and played in France. They played in the same team.
Oh wow.
So they would come off the bench, both of them together at the same time. So I got to see him when now Wemby. I get to see Victor.
Yeah.
I got to see him incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And what got me is that he got the ball on top of the key and moved his body and kind of hit you. So that's how you know it sounded. He I think he crossed it on between his legs, and then did the AI kind of cross. And so I was like, oh shoot, for a guy who's 7'4", move like that. It's not the baskets he made. It's the way he moves and the way he moves his body. That really goes it's eye opening. It goes oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah, as a football player, I've come to acknowledge that basketball players are probably better athletes than us, just overall, because it's so difficult to move your body at that size in a certain way. And then for Wemby to come along and do it at a whole nother level, I don't have to be have a long history of analyzing basketball to recognize that is something different. It's special, man.
It's one of those things that prototype comes into the league and you okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not a lot of them out there. I mean, Wemby, Bron,
Yeah.
KD,
Yes.
Steph, you Steph,
it,
and
yeah.
all this stuff. I don't want to put Giannis in, but just
Yeah.
guys
Yeah, no,
who
but
You don't have to. We
No, yeah,
all
but
know.
no. But I'm
We
saying
know.
those guys coming into the league and they kind of changed the shape of the league. And before them, it was Shaq.
Yeah.
Was all these other guys and
So
Bro.
in that same vein, what's what's it like playing with Jokic, who doesn't, or playing against Jokic, somebody who does it in like a completely different way? Because he's like a totally different prototype to someone who's like physically dominant.
Yeah, no, but he is as well, because the pace he moves, the way he saves up his energy, the way he gets the ball, and he attracts you because he's telling you like, hey, if you don't come here, I'm gonna score. Not all the time, because I think he likes to pass more, but that's my opinion. I don't want to give out anything, but he attracts you, and all of a sudden he picks you apart. That is not what happens nowadays. It's just he's different.
Is he the toughest guy for like when you guys are game planning? Is Jokic the guy who's like
Oh,
toughest guy to think about?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you that, but no, you can. I can answer the question like that because you always give like kind of you hype them up, and they kind of go. But what I would say is that for any player like Jokic, is that having a game plan for him is a must.
Yeah.
It's super necessary. You don't go to a game and say like, okay, you're going to guard them and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll adjust. No.
All right. Well, I was just reading this article, catching up on this article from Vice about how Giannis was discovered. It said that, do you want to tell the story?
Listen, guys, I want to say one thing. People who saw him in the draft didn't believe that he was going to be this. So to say now that I saw him outside, a kid playing tag, he's going to be one of the best. Yeah. Okay. But to say that I believed in him, that I believe.
Yeah.
Because you need people to believe in you in the beginning. That I believe. But not to say like, I saw like these guys who are ranked. I don't know how you guys do the rankings here in the States, like ESPN top 100 and never even touch the league. They don't even come to the NBA. So it's hard to say like, okay, this kid is going to be good. But to believe, you need to believe.
All right. Appreciate you, man. Is there anything else you want to leave with? I want to remind people to check out the Thanasis podcast. Download it, rate, review it, say it's good. Listen to all the episodes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Whoever want to subscribe, listen. I think you guys' feedback is great. Negative, positive. His criticism is great, and that's how you get better.
Oh, see, it's my guy.
Yeah.
Accountability is the rule of the locker room.
I tell Charlie all the time, don't tell me nothing positive. I don't want to hear that. That ain't helping me, man. Like, unless it's genuine. Don't give me that pat on the back foolishness. Like, we had a good show. I know when we have a good show. I know we have bad shows. I know.
So my question was for you.
Oh,
so I want to.
Uh-oh.
So you played for the Ravens, right?
Yeah, I did.
Did you play with Ray Lewis at all? Did you ever play?
I did play with Ray Lewis.
I want to ask something because I'll do some pregame stuff with my team, and I want to ask you like, what's the thing that you felt like really got you, like this is the things that not only got me going but got me zeroed in?
Oh, okay. All right. So if you're asking me like from my experience with Ray Lewis, I think I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis recycled a lot of speeches.
Okay.
He would run back to speeches, and the speeches themselves, the first time you heard them, them would hit. Second time you heard it, he's like, all right. Yeah, we in the same vibe. The third time you heard it, you was like, all right, Ray, we just heard that a couple weeks ago. But it didn't matter as much because I think what comes through for Ray or what comes through for anybody is like genuine passion. And I bring this story up a couple times when I was talking about there are probably lots of different, and you and I were talking about how there's a thin line between the superstar NBA player and a guy who's on a 10-day in and out. Like, I know from a distance, us fans, we're like, oh my gosh, this guy stinks. Yeah. That guy's great. But it's actually a thin line between those different things. And while there are a lot of things that are different between me and my teammates and Ray Lewis, I would say the one thing that was obvious to me that wouldn't be obvious to everyone else was how emotionally connected he was to what was the result on the field. So while he would give a locker, I remember this very clearly. We had a Thursday night game in Cleveland, and Cleveland wasn't good. They're rarely good. So we were pretty good. And I was like, all right, we're going to go win this game, get on this plane and go home. And I'm standing there in the tunnel before we got on the field thinking like that. Like, all right, let's go take care of business, another day at work. All right, which I imagine as a basketball player, you play 82 games a year. Sometimes you probably show up like that. But I tell you that I was standing in the tunnel and Ray had already given, I don't know if it was Ray, someone had already given a pregame speech. And we're standing in the tunnel and Ray Lewis had tears in his eyes. And he had already won a Super Bowl. He's obviously already headed to the Hall of Fame eventually. He was probably the greatest linebacker of all time, and he's in the tunnel with tears in his eyes because he is hyped up about having another opportunity to play. And I remember standing there like, oh, I ain't him. I'm going to give it all I got. but that ain't how I'm built. So I would say as long as you are, when you are delivering those things, like if it's something that I think that's where people miss is like they're trying to write a speech that's going to get people. Yeah. It's like if you really feel it, and he would give one that some of my teammates and I would bring up every now and then was how he would talk about how the crime rate in Baltimore would be impacted by how well the Ravens played. I didn't know whether it was true or false, but he believed it, and it got him worked up.
I don't know nothing, but I do believe it.
Yeah,
I do believe it because the way the power the sports have, to people, it's unimaginable. Like you can't even. But the thing is that I appreciate too. Thank you for sharing the story. Yeah. I appreciate is that the way he drafts people, the passion he has for the game, and everything. But like the way contagious that is, to get to the court. Because at the same time, you wanna play hard. I want to play with emotion. I don't want emotion to take over, but I want to play with emotion because that's all sports is about, and get to the promised land. I appreciate you, bro.
I appreciate you. I don't like how you just came on here and started hosting my show.
No. I'm out of here.
It's cool, man. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, brother. Sometimes I leave here and I'm like, hey, was that good? I don't know. Was it? This time I know. We had a good show. Thanks, Charlie. This was great. Appreciate Podville for taking care of us. And, of course, all of our great producers, Megan Serafina, Kevin Bryan, and Cortez a little bit. We're out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.